all this evening of your time as you create time to exist. We will begin this interaction this evening of your time with the idea of what you call in your society habits. In this way, do recognize that many times when you are creating the exploration of the ideas that you desire to experience in your life, many times as you create that exploration, you will also create along with it the idea of so-called blockages, so-called impasses, so-called stumbling blocks, and many times, whether it is from a recognition, a cognition, a creation of something having to do with the present life or another life, you will usually hinge it upon the idea you call habit. The idea that you have been taught to do something a certain way, have believed that that is a representation of the only real reality, and thus find yourself exemplifying that methodology over and over again, even when you are dealing with things that no longer need that particular methodology as a tool of relating to the new idea you are being or becoming. Now, in no way, shape, or form are we saying that your experience of this idea is invalid. No. But do recognize that the idea that something is the result of what you call a habit is still only yet another way to believe that your reality is, rather than a representation of the way it actually is, regardless of what you believe. The idea of something being a habit only has manifestable reality in your physical experience when you believe that your definition of a habit is something that is difficult to change. The habit is only a concept like any other concept. It is not a fundamental law of existence. You may allow it to attain that status when you choose to view that the situations that occur in your life are the result of something that you deem to be difficult to change. But in this way, do recognize that the idea of a habit is a construction, an artificial construct, just like anything else, and that basing a situation in your life, the reason for its occurrence upon what you call a habit, is only basing one illusion upon another. You are not basing it upon anything that has any more substance, any more foundation than any of the situations you are attempting to change. You all follow along so far? Simply in this way, would suggest that when you are creating your own cognitions of your relationship to the realities you are experiencing, for you are the realities you are experiencing. You are the reality you are experiencing. It is not something outside you. And in this way, we would suggest that you pay attention to yourself, pay attention to how you construct your conscious relationship to the idea you are experiencing. Listen to yourself many times. You will hear in your own words, in your own patterns of thought, you will hear how you are consciously choosing to believe that the situation is difficult to change. Listen to yourselves. Listen to how you phrase ideas. Listen to what you say. For many more times than you think, is a consciously aware choice that you are making to have the experiences you are having, simply based upon what you hear yourself saying you believe in. Listen to yourselves and recognize that so-called habits are only created by you to be habits because of the way you choose to think about the concept. That is the only thing that makes a habit a habit. The way you choose to think about it. The way you choose to create such a concept to exist in your reality. There is nothing built in as a mechanism that makes a habit work regardless of your belief system. Nothing. It is all a product of your belief system. All of it. There is nothing that you experience in physical reality that is not a product of your conscious belief system, except for the generalized themes that you experience in life. But these are very, very general. All of the specifics are the result of your belief system as a physical consciousness. And if you are simply willing to pay more attention to yourselves, give yourselves the respect you are due, and love yourselves unconditionally enough to listen, then you will hear yourselves creating the very realities you are struggling to change. And then you will simply recognize you do not have to struggle to change them. All you need to do is to say something else. And to know that that is just as true as anything you have ever said. Follow me. Sure.
Bashar?
Yes.
Something like what we call the real strong habits like heroin and some of the stronger drug addictions. Is that really because the people that have chosen to use that as a tool are such strong creators that they have done an excellent job of creating dependency?
In a sense,
and
yes.
They could walk away from that still.
Oh, yes. Do recognize that the usual connection to that particular idea is the creation of the removal of taking responsibility for your creations from yourself and putting it on something else. But you are still creating that. That is how powerful you are.
Is that the same thing as spiritual?
Anything. Everything in physical reality is only a symbol of the idea you are being. Nothing in physical reality comes with its own innate existence until you give it life and meaning. You are all of the physical reality you are experiencing. One more time. You are all of the physical reality you are experiencing. Follow me. Therefore, any physiological symbol is only a representation, a reflection, a mirroring of the idea you are being, in a form that says you are still creating the idea of your reality to be something outside of you, rather than what you are. That is the only reason you need a physiological reflection, because you believe that as a physical being, reality must be reflected outside of you.
Does that mean you can change your body pretty much?
Basically. Now, there will be, to some extent, some limitations according to, once again, the generalized overall agreement you have with the mass consciousness as to what it is that will serve the mass consciousness. Anything beyond that, in your terms, you will not find yourself able to change into, or let us put it this way. It is not that you cannot change into it. But if you do change into something that does not serve this mass consciousness, then you will change out of the mass consciousness at the same time you change into the other idea. You will disappear from this reality. You follow me?
Yes, I do.
But you can change into a variety of ideas in this mass consciousness. Do recognize that because this is the transformational life, this is that particular transformational era in your history, so to speak, that there are many more things that are possible now than used to be. because you are at the end of the cycle of limitation, and thus your mass consciousness is allowing for more things to be possible to reflect to itself that it can and does, in fact, create all of the reality it experiences. So there is more, as you would say, leeway now than there used to be. However, again, recognize that if it does not serve any of the purposes within your entire civilization to all of a sudden become blue and have 6 arms, then you will have chosen to agree to not make that kind of a change. But if you do make that kind of a change, you will not be in this reality. You will be in the one that making that kind of a change or being that way is of service to.
What are the general themes that you said? I mean, birth, death.
That idea. Experiences, let us say, of your ability to recognize, to become cognizant of the fact that you do create your reality. That is a general theme. Ideas of recognizing your own deservability of abundance. That is a general theme. You follow me?
Yes.
There are many ways to explore these ideas. Deservability, inherent birthright of ecstasy, the fact that you create your own reality. These are all general themes. Everything else that is more specific, you are choosing as a physical consciousness to simply create that way to explore the general theme. In other words, let us say the general theme is recognizing that since you are connected to all that is, you are as abundant as you need to be. The idea of exploring abundance can be explored through the physiological specifics of quote-unquote being rich or being poor. You are still exploring the idea of abundance as a general theme. And all of the ideas in between, all are still the specifics that explore the general theme of abundance. You follow me? Mm-hmm. It is up to you to decide which you prefer. The higher consciousness that you are, that made the choice of the general theme, does not care what you prefer. Everything to the higher consciousness is learning. Everything. Therefore, that is why it is left up to your free will to decide which way you prefer to explore the general theme. You are certainly more than allowed to explore it in ecstasy. It is up to you. Does that assist you?
Yes, it does.
Thank you. Sharing. Yes. All right. If you feel such a connection, then obviously it is something that rings true within your vibration.
Can you tell me anything about,
Can you?
I made a connection after all this time.
Yes. Then that is, in and of itself, a sign of the timing and lets you know that there is as much information there as you wish. What do you think? All right. That does not mean you have not had past connections, but do remember that you are creating the past and the future from the present. Always. The present is the only time you ever exist within. Ever. Therefore, whether you have a cognition of a so-called past connection or a cognition of a so-called future connection, a recognition or a precognition, it is only that is where your focus lies with reference to the life you are living now, that you are making that connection. Everything, every level, every interaction that there is to have with that individual, you have had and will have. The ones you, quote unquote, remember, the ones you find yourself focusing upon, are the ones that may be of service to you to symbolically reflect the ideas you are choosing to be in this life, from this point of view. Different lives may connect into different other lives for their reference points, if they need to. Therefore, as you are creating your life now, how is it, as you have already expressed to some degree with the idea of the notation of a future life, how is it that you feel that knowing about this connection of energy, knowing about this interaction, this blending of your consciousness with your friend's consciousness, how does that allow you to make a cognition of your life right now? What does it do for you?
I like magic, and I like to
Oh.
create that with friends.
All right. Well, everything in your life is magic. Everything.
When I today I shared a friend's baby, and I was just thinking, maybe do I create that, or is that taking that? Well, I could be playing with.
All right. Now, in a sense, recognize this. Let us put it this way. If we were talking to you, let us say, 20 of your years ago, I simply would have said, yes, you are picking up on a past life. Today, however, I will say, you are picking up on a past life that you are creating from the present in order to fulfill the needs to recognize who you are now. It is both true.
I do enjoy it, though.
Yes. All you need to do is recognize that your imagination will always supply you with whatever connections are valid to the idea you are being. Do not look for accuracy. That is a relative term. The truth is composed of all truths. Therefore, however your imagination attracts you to symbolize a connection is the way you need to symbolize it to understand it. That is all there is to it.
Okay. It's just like the perception.
Oh, by all means.
Curious.
Follow your curiosity.
Which leads me to believe I'm probably on the button after all.
Of course.
So
Can never be off your own button.
Yeah. I saw like a honeycomb or a cubicle, like a vast space, and there was like it seemed like there was like all the way up around the wall or whatever.
Keep going.
Like there was no light, or it was lit in there.
Okay.
I don't know.
Self-luminescence. Keep going. Feelings, impressions, sounds, thoughts. Keep going.
I guess that's as far as I explored at that point.
Keep going.
Okay. Well, probably the belly of the mothership.
Thank you.
It looks like that stuff called tripe. The cow.
We understand the idea.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Has that assisted you? Oh, thank you. Sure.
Bashar,
Yes.
could you tell me why the dinosaurs died out on this planet?
In this way, you will find that there have been transmutations of many of those animal types into many others, and there are still variations that exist in different planar dimensions, and a few that exist even in your own dimension. Some of them have also transformed into the life forms that you understand and recognize to be what you call the lizards and also the birds. In this way, however, the overall idea you are referring to, you are now, as a civilization, beginning to be aware to some degree of the idea of what you call the meteoric cometary bombardment that altered and shifted the electromagnetic field of your planet and caused there to be a cessation of a certain type of life form that beat at a certain pulse and could no longer be sustained. Recognize that the idea now proposed by your civilization of recent times of the recognition that this cometary or meteoric bombardment could have been caused by the idea of what you call a dark star orbiting your system is in fact the case. You do have a dark star orbiting your system.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that a third density dark star?
Yes.
Can you tell me?
Otherwise, it would not affect the idea and pull the meteors to your planet.
I heard that it was Moldeck.
Moldeck.
Well,
That is the idea of what you are referring to now as the remnants of your asteroid belt.
was it the radioactiveness or the cessation or whatever that word was that actually? Because I guess have the scientists found traces of radioactivity, or they just?
Mostly, again, the idea is meteoric bombardment. And what is not yet understood by your scientists, electromagnetic shifting of your planetary vibration.
What kind of effect does that dark star have?
The idea, again, is that you will find there will be reversals of magnetic and electromagnetic and gravitic fields in your solar system as the star passes through from time to time. It will also pull with it the idea of meteoric debris, which causes much of the bombardment.
How far away from it?
In your terms of time frame, 11.2 million years.
What is that in light years?
It is not light years away. It is connected to your system, but outside the orbits of all of your inner planets.
With a dark star, what is the cycle that it passes through to affect our...
As you have already ascertained, between the idea of what you call 25 to 33 million years, it is, in that sense, halfway through the cycle.
The last time being the dinosaurs?
Face.
Is the dark star anything to do with a black hole?
It is compacted mass, but not as compacted as that.
I see.
It is simply not luminous. Because in your terms, it is compacted mass and does not radiate the idea of illumination.
But it would
Except
be
in
mass.
what you would call the infrared.
Ah.
What effect does it have on the physical and emotional bodies of man?
In this way, recognize, again, it will have to do with connections of the gravitic fields, the tensor dynamics of your system, and can, to some degree, represent the idea of the patterns and the cycles that you have allowed yourself to create upon your planet to begin with. The idea of cyclical extinction or transformation itself is connected with that idea.
Well, that, since we're on a duality planet here, where there is good and evil,
No, not good and evil.
what is that?
Positive and negative expression. Good and evil are your own labels and are judgments.
Then how do you define positive and negative?
Thank you. Positive is recognizing that you are a part of all that is. It is integration, integrity in that way. Knowing that you are a part of all that is. Negative is separation, limitation, and judgment. Separation of yourself from all that is.
Thank you.
Therefore, the idea in and of itself of the labeling of positive and negative energy as good and evil is in itself a negative expression, because it is a judgment and a separation. You follow me?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Good.
Bashar,
Good.
is there another star that our solar system, including our sun, revolves around an orbit of around once every 25,000 years?
There are cycles in that way, yes, but recognize it is mostly the idea of what you call black holes that creates the massive revolutions of systems.
So our sun is revolving around the center of this particular galaxy. And this particular galaxy is revolving around a center point.
Okay.
And
And clusters of galaxies revolve around their central points, and on, and on, and on. Universes revolve around their center points, and on, and on, and on.
Does our consciousness shift, our mass consciousness shift as we evolve, affect the electromagnetic field?
Oh, yes! For understand, mentality is created in the electromagnetic field by your consciousness. You affect it all the time anyway. What you call weather is a direct result of your emotional mass conscious effect upon the electromagnetic field of your planet. You follow me? Does that answer your question?
Bashar?
Yes.
Somebody may have asked this, but I wasn't present. There's supposedly a hole in our ozone layer. What?
It is the product of a cyclical magnetic lens. In this way, you will find that it fluctuates in what you call annual terminology once per orbit of your planet. Many planets have them. It is simply a type of magnetic lens that causes a dispersion of certain gases within your atmosphere to allow for the crystallization of the gases in that area temporarily.
Oh, so it's really nothing to be alarmed about then.
Not really.
Oh, great.
In this way, you will find, however, that there is a change of the balance in the idea of the gases in your atmosphere, and that is the idea that many of you are connected to with concern.
But those gases then should be escaping through that hole, right?
Not so much in this way escaping, for your terms of gravity will pull them back for the most part. But recognize that this idea, this recognition of the magnetic lens cycle will tell you a few things about the idea of what your planet is as a generator, as a dynamo, so to speak. And in this way, you can avail yourself of the information that it provides you to once again, as certain individuals upon your planet already have discovered many times, to avail yourself of the pulse of electromagnetic power that your entire planet can provide for you, rather than the generation of power in the ways you are doing it now. The planet itself can provide you with all the energy you need for anything. In a sense.
Will we be tapping into that power? Will we be
Why not?
soon?
It's up to you. It has already been attempted many
we have
times.
The technology then. We have the knowledge.
You have had so for quite some time. But again, the idea of the way you have structured your society says that you do not want that to happen. So you create structures within your society that suppress the information. Because the way you have set them up, they are protecting you, so to speak, from certain kinds of ideas that you allow them to protect you from, because you are not taking responsibility for your own self-empowerment and recognizing that you are your governments.
Bashar, just like you've got a lot of individuals who keep coming out carbureted with different toxins in about 80 to 100 miles per gallon. That's in our
Okay.
down here. And General Motors or American Motors, they used to buy it. You see buy it.
Okay. All you need to understand is that when you change the idea that power is not power over others, but self-empowerment, then those structures of society you have created will recognize that they do not need to suppress anything. For the release of the information and the sharing of the information will not be a loss of power. It will be a gaining of self-empowerment. But because of the way you think of power, and because you think that vulnerability is weakness, then that is the type of society and the type of effects you create. And so much of the information that you have available to you is not dispersed.
Does Tesla's work some of this information you're talking about?
A great deal of it. Understand that individual knew exactly the relationship of the understanding of the electromagnetic and gravitic dynamic tensor fields of your world, knew exactly how to utilize them in that way. But once again, the structure of your society at that time, as a mass consciousness, let us say, voted against it. But that available technology is yours anytime you decide it is yours. Some of it. But do understand that because of the degree of suppression that has existed, much of the information is not known even to those who have suppressed it. It will be understood that the way to recognize the rest of the information will be when they are willing to share it with everyone. Because only then will you be the unification that will have access to all of the information, instead of pieces, as long as you decide they will. It is up to all of you to become self-empowered and recognize that you are not chastising them for what they have been, for you have made them that way. You are your governments.
How much power is there?
As much as you believe there is. The idea to us of what you call prayer and light work are once again simply symbols of knowing what is true for you and acting like it. And yes, we believe that works. Always. Thank you. Yes.
Last night.
8:22.
Thank you.
And you woke up just before.
Yes, I did. And I had a sensing that I didn't know. I woke up and I sat up and I said, "Why am I awake?" And then the bed started jolting all
Then
around.
you knew.
Frank slept all through it. But I was wondering about this young lady's question that she asked you previously about the earthquakes and stuff. What was the synchronicity with that event and some of our transformation in our social consciousness? Was there something taking place last night?
That, again, the passage through of a gateway, and in this way on the cusp of something that perhaps not to you specifically, but to other individuals. A week ago of your time, we mentioned that there would be a gateway on what you call 7-7.
The live
I missed that.
What do you mean 7-7?
Yeah.
What you call July 7.
What do you mean by gateway, Bashar?
The idea of a shift in the electromagnetic field that represents a shift in your mass consciousness, and therefore a release and an absorption and a channeling of that energy in that way. You are making adjustments, and you are seeing them reflected in your planet. Thank you. It has to do with many old connections of Harvard negativity, as you already know. You remember?
Harvard University. What do you mean by that?
The idea simply is that area that you call Palm Springs, many of your years ago, was a recipient to what you would call extraterrestrial civilizations that arrived upon your planet to begin a new cycle of life and rebirth, to allow there to be the blending of positive and negativity so that there would not be the domination of negativity that they had within their own systems. Thus, for you, it is a local focal point of the idea of having absorbed and blended and integrated old and ancient ideas of negativity which you no longer need. That is why the energy in that place has now been crystallized and released, so that you have made a step towards fourth density as a group, all at once.
Bashar, do you
One
know
moment.
how-
Oh, do not be sorry.
Okay.
You are next. Okay.
Yes, is it possible to use the law of universal ratios and probabilities in its cycle?
To some extent. But again, recognize that because this is the transformational life, such things as odds tend to begin to lose their meaning. For everything at any given moment is exactly at zero, no matter what has gone before. There are ratios, okay?
Are they constant?
To some degree, in general terms. But again, portions of them are beginning to fluctuate. What is it you wish to apply this idea to?
To probabilities, to cycles.
This way, there is some recognition of cycles. But do also remember that, in a sense, you are at the end of many of those cycles and will not experience them again.
The new one.
Yes, but they will not last that long. The idea of all of your experiencing of limitation and judgment has occupied, let us say, tens, hundreds of thousands of your years, millions of years. The beginning of the cycle of integration only requires 2,000 to 3,000 years, and then you will no longer be physical. So the idea is that any cycles you are now going to begin to recognize through the ratios you are familiar with will take on new meaning, will begin to create polar inversions of a sort. There will always be two sides, so to speak, to any cycle. And you can begin to recognize that the cycles are not so much ideas of predictability, but recognitions of opportunity and change. Does that assist you? Thank you. Yes,
Do you know Ramsa?
to some degree.
Do you communicate?
On one level. the idea of a communication.
Yeah, and knowing that entity and
Simply you will find that all consciousness now associated in assisting your civilization forms some level of their awareness, some level of their existence to be in communication constantly with all other consciousnesses being of assistance to you. On that level, there is communication. Not so much within what you would call the specifics of my personality consciousness with that consciousness directly, but on the level of the association of the overall idea that we are reflecting to you as a society, there is communication, there is the recognition of timing, there is interaction, so that all... Of course. That is why we are both here. Recognize that any so-called discrepancies or disagreements come from your recognition and interpretation of the information you are getting. Homer.
I had a question about Ron. I watched a videotape, and he said to a man that if he smokes marijuana, that he was going to die before he was ready. And I can't die before you're ready.
Oh, thank you. Recognize, once again, that what is said to certain individuals is said because that is what that individual may believe they need to hear to make a change.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know, he seems to be the one that I found that I have no discrepancies with at all. I know
Again,
personal.
understand this. All consciousness being channeled upon your planet at this time will find different avenues of expression, different vehicles, and different levels of relationship symbolically. Because there are many different levels of relationship and many different symbolic understandings upon your planet. Therefore, the information in general is the same, but will be clothed in specific symbols in order to reach those who come from those symbolic understandings. Otherwise, they wouldn't understand it at all. There are only, in some cases, individuals upon your planet that will only begin to understand that they are creating their reality when, at first, they are told that someone else will do something for them. Then they will believe that there is power to make a change. Then slowly, subtly, and surely, the power is given back to that individual. Recognize that there is always within any interaction a myriad number of opportunities to recognize what is in fact true for you. Now, if I told you that your doing something would allow you to die, quote unquote, before you were ready, and you simply recognize, as you have done so, that that is not possible, then it is your duty to say so, to recognize that I am giving you an opportunity to stand up for what you believe in. Well, you do. But the idea we are simply illustrating is that many times, many of the consciousness ends will say things in certain ways that you interpret in one way, but are being done for a reason that you do not consciously perceive at the moment, because you do not understand the idea of the relationship going on between the entity and that being on your planet. And what it is that the entity sees will trigger something in that being.
Yeah, I see. It's a lot of souls that are like kind of, I'll say, waiting in line, but that would like to communicate with people, and that when we're ready, they'll just like, somebody will be ready for you.
Yes.
Is the Ouija board a good way of
It is
communicating?
a way. If you enjoy it more than anything else as a symbol, then it is your perfect way. Everything is a tool. Everything is a symbol. If you are attracted to it, then obviously for you, it rings true. If you change your mind, so be it.
Speaking of symbols, that bow tie symbol that you told me that might sound obscure, is there any...
No.
Okay.
Bashar, what is the difference between you and ascended masters?
That's a good one. May I answer the question with a question?
Yes.
What is the difference between an ascended master and you?
Well,
An ascended master speaks.
Well, they're not physical, I figure.
They're not.
Well,
So what?
I don't know. I'm wondering what this, this.
Well, the idea in generalized terms are simply a reference point to individual consciousnesses that are willing to recognize that they do in fact create their reality, no matter what level they are on.
Okay.
Ascended simply refers to the idea of a transformational consciousness connection and assimilation to all the levels upon which you exist, for whatever effect that creates in whatever level you happen to be projecting through.
Is that then have to do with the white brotherhood or whatever?
Oh, in a sense. But again, that is your third density symbological reference point for another idea of an extension of your own consciousnesses. You follow me?
Yes.
Not that it is not congruent with other consciousnesses as well, but they are simply no more powerful than you are. They simply know that they are self-empowered. And they assist you to remember that you are. Do remember that a master is the first one to remind you that you are a master.
Yes.
Thank you. So, look in the mirror, and you will see a master. All right? Oh, fine. You! Hey.
Is there any correlation between?
In a sense, yes, again, an event of timing, a recognition that certain foundations and groundwork had been laid down, and thus another doorway could be moved through. A new level of understanding and relate. Thank you.
Did you like the light show?
I was not scanning at that time.
Can you stand
Sure.
for your shit and see what's going on?
From time to time, when we are in your neighborhood.
Were you busy doing something else?
Okay.
Do you remember what it was?
Yay.
Would you share it with us?
Yay. Is there any other time? Was interacting with other civilizations and was interacting with different levels of consciousness regarding some of the changes going on between your civilization and another civilization that is experiencing some ideas of parallelity with regard to the expression of borders and such that you create.
Where is the civilization?
In another density of the star you call Canopus.
Sir?
Hey.
I'm doing some adventures. I'm just discovering stones, and I'm going to be working making jewelry, and I'm going to try to, not try, I'm going
Oh,
to...
thank you!
I'm going to be using the vibrational qualities of
Going
the stone.
to be?
Well, I haven't done yet, but
You
I
haven't?
will.
You haven't? You haven't? You are doing it right now as you discuss it.
Okay.
Is that not a part of the idea?
Yeah, I'm exploring.
All right, then you are doing it right now. You will be doing it in many different ways, but you are doing it right now.
Okay, I'd like to explore an aspect of that with you.
All right.
Today I bought a lot of just samples of different stones that I found in a book that has Mystic Minerals is the title of it. And
Oh, mystic. Oh.
yeah. Well, I didn't judge the cover
All right.
information.
All right. Very good.
I was wondering if you could tell me if there was like any general way to get the best quality out of the stones. Like, I'm sure meditating will help, but in regards to using it for other people too.
Again, you will only always attract those individuals that you need to interact with to create and co-create whatever effect you need to represent the path you are being.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bashar,
Yay!
I wanted to share with you something that you taught me many, many months ago.
Something that you taught yourself.
Okay. Someone had asked you how you communicated, and you said that it was through vibrations, your mental telepathic understanding was through vibration.
In a sense, yes.
And I left here, and several months went by, and a very dear friend of mine that also comes here, her mother was very sick with Alzheimer's disease, and no one could talk to her because she made no sense at all. And I started to communicate with her for 3 and 4 hours at a time and have conversation after conversation while people sat in the room laughing because they couldn't believe that we understood each other. And I finally understood that she wanted to pass on and go to the other side.
Good.
And I helped her and her daughter to communicate through those last few weeks that they were here. And she had something she wanted to teach her daughter, and I helped them to communicate as well as myself with her. And shortly after that, she died. And it was a wonderful awakening for all of us.
Yes!
To be able to communicate with her on that level.
Thank you!
Thank you.
For having made a difference. One individual makes a difference in the total consciousness. Thank you.
For sure.
Hey!
The lady I was involved with a while back, about a month ago. Was involved with.
Was.
On another level continues.
Ah, thank you.
She was involved in a very bad automobile accident about a month ago, Memorial Day, from what I understand. She's been in the hospital for a month. She'll probably be there for a lot longer.
Probably. Here we go with probabilities again. Probably. Is that what you perceive to be her reality? Is that what you are saying?
Yes.
All right.
She was supposed to get married a couple days, I think, after that happened. Obviously, that hasn't happened. I have visited the hospital twice.
All right.
We've spent a great deal of time together. She comes and goes, but she knew who I was. Actually, we spent about 8 hours together on the total for the two. We talked over the phone.
Right.
The family, I met her folks for the first time. They don't know me. Because of the pending marriage, they're very uncomfortable when I'm there. I've talked with her fiance several times, and he is exceptionally uncomfortable.
Continue.
He has asked me not to come back, not to contact her. Part of me feels as though I'm abandoning her if I don't contact her, at least to allow her to know what's happening.
Does a part of you feel like you're abandoning yourself if you don't?
Yes. I'm torn between going back and not going back and not worrying about hassling with it and everybody else. I mean, the family's had enough with everything that's happened. God knows I've had enough happen in the past. No one wants any hassles. But there's this other feeling. She's happy when she sees me.
All right.
I know she enjoys that now. I don't know what to do. I'm really torn about it. Would you comment on it?
Well, simply you can recognize, first and foremost, that you are, no matter what the definition of your physical proximity, always interacting. Always. Now, if you find that the idea of the physical proximity attracts a creation on your part, so the idea of displeasure from others, it may simply be the idea that you can know you are interacting anyway, and not necessarily choose to continue to create the idea of dissension from them. But in this way, also do recognize it may be an opportunity for you to recognize that if you both wish to continue to co-create the idea of the interaction in the manner that you most enjoy, then in that sense, it does not matter what they think. Does she enjoy it?
Yes, to my knowledge, she does.
And do you?
Yes.
Then what does anyone else have to say about it?
That has been my thought process for a long time. But the other part of me that plays the devil's advocate says, the family
devil's advocate.
Well, I'm trying to be fair about the situation.
Why do you have to try to be fair? Why do you not know that you are a fair being? That you are functioning within integrity? So what? What has that got to do with what he knows to be true for himself? Do you know you are a fair being?
Oh, yes.
Do you know you are functioning within integrity?
Yes.
then why not allow yourself to simply understand that once again, you can know that there is an interaction going on right now, no matter what your physical proximity, and you can be just as powerful being not physically present as you can be physically present. And at the same time, you can recognize that if that individual wishes to co-create with you physical proximity, and you wish to co-create that with her, then it is your opportunity in this way to do so, if that is what excites you the most, if that is what excites her the most, if you are functioning within integrity with each other in that way. And also simply recognize that both of you together may be allowing all those others who are giving you all of the judgment to come to some terms about themselves by seeing something reflected in the two of you. For what reason should they judge you? Perhaps you can be a reflection for them to come to terms and cease judging themselves.
Is that possible without the situation really taking off and blowing up and escalating into something it shouldn't be?
It is possible, yes. But again, recognize that if you simply know what is true for you, even if it, quote-unquote, does go that way, you will never feel it. But again, do recognize that you are able to do anything you want from anywhere and any when. So again, it is up to you. And if you feel that within your integrity and your conscious choice that you would prefer in this way to simply know you are interacting with her as you need to, no matter where you are, then physical proximity is not necessarily something you have to insist upon. But then again, it is up to you to feel out the situation for yourself and simply function through the integrity you know you are utilizing.
Seeing the situation from your vantage point right now.
Do not necessarily assume that I have a greater vantage point than you do, for it is your personal life. And it is not always the case that ideas are more apparent to us than they are to you. And right now, such is the case. There is nothing that I have an overview of that you are not privy to, since you are dealing with such an intensification of focus of the energy. You are very well aware of all the factors involved, as many as I am, as many as I allow myself to be aware of based upon the idea of not interfering with your choices. Thus, it is totally in your hands. Overview notwithstanding.
If you were in my situation. If.
What parallel reality are we talking about? That if has nothing to do with what is. What is. If has nothing
correct,
to do
but
with
you've just said that you see the same things I see. No more, no less.
Okay.
Knowing that,
Okay.
what would you feel would be the best possible choice at this time?
All right. One hint. And that is it, all right? Yes, no, maybe.
An in-depth hint?
One hint of my definition. One. All right? Take it or leave it.
In that case, I'll take it.
I would. Oh, this is fun. I would. If I were in your shoes, which would not fit me very well, I would open complete and total communication with everyone as to why they feel the way they choose to feel. I would talk with everyone and explore in depth what everyone is choosing to feel and why they think they are feeling what they are feeling, so that I can function with my integrity and integrate the entire interaction within me by talking to every portion of the interaction.
if you're aware of the situation as I am, you know that I have attempted that.
Attempted?
You know that I have done that with at least one of the individuals involved.
At least one? I said every. I said every. Every. Who knows what talking to one will do for another? You follow me?
Yes.
You do not sound too happy. Do you think it will be a great deal of trouble to talk to all?
It's not so much that I think it will be a great deal of trouble.
Oh.
It's the idea that I can reasonably project.
Stopping before you start, are you? Planning the outcome in advance?
The outcome that I was thinking about was certainly one of the options of an outcome.
Well, yes, but you do not have to prefer it, do you? You do not have to act like that is the most expected outcome that could happen. Do you?
Correct.
Where is your faith? My.
Comes and goes.
Where does it go? There is nowhere for it to go to. Where does it come from?
Your opening statements this evening, you were talking about
habits.
Yes.
Yay.
Yes. I saw, I suppose, a lot of parallels with that in this situation.
I see.
But I can't, for the life of me, understand in this particular situation why I would agree to. Well, I shouldn't say that. Why I would
co-create.
All right, co-create an additional negative situation on top of the negative situation that's already taken place.
But why are you defining what has taken place as a negative situation? And why are you defining everything else that occurs from that point forward as additional negativity? If you are functioning within a positive vibration, how can anything that you are associated with in that way and interacting with have anything but a positive reason for its creation?
That's fine for someone to see on another level, but that's
here we go. That's fine for another level, as if it was not all one level. Again, the habit of separation. Oh yes, I understand it intellectually. But emotionally, I choose to make a difference that there is an intellectual and an emotional understanding, and therefore I refuse to blend the two, and therefore I refuse to understand it. What makes you think there is another level? There is only another level to understand it upon when you create another level to understand it upon. Do not forget, unconscious knowingness is the same thing as conscious unknowingness, which is saying you consciously choose to not know and relegate it to your unconscious self, which does know. But it is all one thing. It is all one consciousness. There is no other level. Only the illusion that there is. Now, if you wish to understand, then simply, once again, allow yourself to understand that every. Now, if I were to suggest to you that you would underline the word every as many times as you could, how many times do you think you would underline it before you would get tired? Until you would understand that I mean every when I say every.
All right.
How many times could you underline it? All right. That many times. Underline the word every to understand that when I say every, I mean every. Every situation is fundamentally neutral until you give it meaning, positive or negative. No situation has built-in meaning. No circumstances, no scenario is inherently negative or positive. It just is. Until you decide to choose how you wish to look at it. Then, looking at it as a positive idea creates a positive cognition and a positive effect in your reality as you relate and interact with that situation. Choosing to think that it is a negative situation to begin with creates for you more reinforcement of negative experience, because then that is all you allow yourself to see in a fundamentally neutral situation is the negative side.
Based upon what you've said, I find a grave contradiction.
All right.
When I first approached the situation, there wasn't a thought in my mind that the situation was negative. I was not looking at the accident as a negative situation.
What has then got to do with now? Again, understand. No matter who you used to be when you first approached it, you obviously, the moment you chose to experience negativity, chose to be someone else to whom it was possible to have a negative experience. What happened? Why did you choose to become someone who would only experience the idea in a negative way rather than the continuance of the positive idea?
If you have two individuals that are experiencing a situation from a positive stance, no matter what it is, and you have another individual or additional individuals enter the same situation, you still have the two that are looking at it positively. The others are not looking at it positively.
But that is their reality. It does not have to be yours. Why should you be attached judgmentally to the way they choose to look at the situation? Why should that change your positive outlook? Well,
if I can answer that. It does not change my positive outlook with regard to the accident itself.
You are making a differentiation.
Yes, because there is a differentiation.
No, you are making a differentiation. There is no differentiation until you make one. If you are completely the idea, this interaction completely positively, then no matter how many other individuals appear within it that choose to be negative, you will still love them the same. You will still feel that they are there for a positive reason. You will not allow yourself to create an effect of negativity in your life with regard to anything in that situation. Anything. Because their reality is not yours. Just because they are interacting with you does not mean that for you they are not there for a positive reason. Maybe for them you are there for a negative reason or a positive reason. Or for themselves they are there for a negative reason or a positive reason. But the idea for you, no matter who or what they are, can still be positive. You could, for example, say, well now, here we are interacting in this relationship. We are having a positively good time. Here comes someone to interact with us. They are choosing to be negative. What a wonderful opportunity! For their negativity may allow us to choose to continue to prefer our positive reality and let us know we are just as strong and can be even more strengthened because we have a negative reality to look at and know that we don't prefer it. So that negativity may be exactly what you, my friend, in your state, need to strengthen yourself according to what you believe in, so you can stand up for yourself so that you can then truly, physically stand up. You follow me?
Yes, I do.
Use your imagination and trust. That is all.
Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Bashar, I have an additional question with that.
All right.
Okay, it has to do with where emotion comes in with this.
Yes.
Okay, because listening to him talk, it sounds like the judgment of negativity came when it didn't feel good.
Your emotions are the result of what you already believe to be true. You follow me?
Okay, I was wondering if I had it backwards.
I was just going to comment on what you were saying. This is just my,
all right.
My
your reality of the situation.
My reality.
Yes, your what if. Go ahead.
He was feeling, since he's, vulnerable, how you say that, and he's very strong.
Hey.
That's what how you interpret it.
Yes, vulnerability is infinite strength. Yes.
To me, that makes a lot of sense. It's nice to accept that. He feels the negative effect of the parents, and he feels this, and he doesn't want to create for them a painful experience.
But again, understand, the idea is that if you know you are functioning within your integrity, and you are fulfilling all of your end of the idea in terms of what you feel to be true for you, then the idea of feeling someone else's negativity is creating it for yourself. If you simply recognize they are choosing to be negative, then you can assist them by giving them a positive reflection that will then allow them to see in you a reflected opportunity to also become positive if they decide to. If you know what you are and who you are and find yourself in a situation with other negative individuals in that way around you, then simply recognize that if you know you are functioning within your integrity, then perhaps you are there for the purpose of reflecting some positivity to them. Perhaps they need you more than they are willing to admit.
Bashar,
I'll find you.
I understand that, and it makes a lot of sense to me, and there's also this reality that we've all been conditioned with to not make waves for other people.
All right. Again, we are not saying that you should intentionally force yourself on anyone. Mm-hmm. That is why we also say that you can recognize that you are having an interaction regardless of whether you are physically in contact with that individual or not. However, if you also understand that in your terms there really is no harm truly being perpetuated maliciously by you by being physically in contact with that individual, then all of the ideas that are being told to you by these negative individuals, it is their choice to feel that way, and you are not responsible for that.
Even not being responsible for that, though, and listening to everything you've said,
okay.
I know that a negative, and I'm using that word again, another negative situation on top of all the other crap that's happened is being...
But whose negative situations?
So it's theirs.
They are choosing it. What do you have to do with its creation? It is their creation. You are responsible to them to be yourself. You are not responsible for them or their choices. Now do you get it? Oh, another habit. Saying it is a big habit to change. Habit built upon habit, built upon conditioning, built upon habit, built upon that's the way it always has been, built upon another belief, another scenario, another creation.
Third density, Bashar.
That is no excuse.
I'm telling you where we're coming from.
I am laughing with you at your wonderful joke. Yes, I know. Oh, thank you. You may all take a short break. All right, I'll stay sharing.
Bashar, my friend Cynthia and I were out by the pool, and we were discussing the difference between emotion and intuition, and we were sharing with each other what our realities were on that.
Nice.
And I sort of felt for me that my emotion and my intuition were the same thing. And I was wondering if you could sort of comment on that as far as if there is a distinction.
There is, in a sense, a distinction since you have made one in that way. There is a differentiation, but recognize in this sense the idea of intuition is more the idea of knowingness, whereas emotion, energy motion, is one of the three parts of the artificial construct you call your personality that you have created to remind you that you do in fact know what you know. So emotion is more a reflection of intuition expressed through the personality, although everything is of course one and the same thing in different manifestations of itself. But in this way, the differentiation is simply that intuition is simply knowing, recognizing or being cognizant of the relationship of you and the thing you are interacting with. Emotion is emotion, energy motion. It is more an activation idea. It is the recognition of the intuition in action, in that sense. It is more the idea of giving yourself a barometer by which you can then see or feel within yourself the reflection of your degree of acknowledgement of your knowingness. You forward.
Yeah. Can you give some sort of assistance regarding how to work out if you are letting your emotions hang you up in situations?
Emotions do not hang you up. Judgments hang you up. There is no such thing as, once again, an intrinsically negative emotion. Judgment creates the polarity that you experience as a seemingly negative emotion. The emotions themselves do not hang you up. They are, simply put, once again, emotion. Energy in motion.
Bashar?
One moment. You follow me?
Yeah, I do. So in releasing yourself from judgment and judging situations, if that is such a habit for people to judge things,
it is a belief that it is a habit.
Okay. Can you give assistance on releasing judgment?
There are many ways we have reflected and assisted with this idea. Different individuals will experience different portions of this reflection according to what they feel they need to understand the idea. Now, you can put it on this level, very simple understanding if you wish. The idea is to recognize what you prefer and what you do not. But what you do not prefer does not have to be invalidated as something less than what you do prefer. You follow me?
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, to simply recognize what you prefer and act that way allows you to experience your preference. Judging what you do not prefer creates you to be the vibration of judgment, the vibration of what you are judging. You form, through your judgment, an attachment to what you don't prefer. So, why would you want to judge if the idea is to become something else? Judging is what keeps you focused on what you don't prefer. You follow me?
Yes, I do.
So why would you want to do that?
Don't.
I do.
When we look at a situation and we view it as being perfect, and we have this phrase of, oh, that's perfect.
Right.
Is that a judgment?
It is a recognition. The idea is that everything is perfect. Everything. The idea that you need to achieve perfection is a judgment. Because you are saying that you are not already everything that you can be, to express the idea you are being at that given moment. You are always perfect. Always. You will never achieve perfection. You are perfect now. You are always a perfect manifestation of the idea you are being. If you are being another idea later on, then you are simply being another perfectly manifested, different idea. Not a better one, a different one. Perfect on its own terms unto itself. Just as perfect as any other idea you have ever been or will ever be. But different.
Mm-hmm. So perfect is just a word, a label that we put on something for just existing as it is.
Yes!
Thank you.
Full cognition of what something is the cognition of its perfection.
Okay. And we have brought about the distinction of whether it's perfect and not perfect as being a judgment of being good or bad.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes.
I was going to ask you, what role does instinct play in emotions?
Again, the idea is that many times you may find that when you are functioning upon your instinct with conscious awareness, when you are trusting your instinct, there may be, in your terms, less need to experience the so-called range of emotionality other than simple unconditional love.
Thank you.
All emotions are derivations of love. Love is the only emotion there is, really. Everything else is either a judgment of that or some sort of differentiation of that.
That would apply to angers and resentment?
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. And do remember once again that hate is not the opposite of love. Guilt is. For love is complete worthiness, and guilt is the belief that it is worthlessness. Hate is only the polarity of the idea, a polarized expression of love attachment after having passed through the filter of the judgment of guilt. But it is simply another manifestation of attachment. Hate still believes itself to be worthy of something. Guilt doesn't. Follow me? So everything is, as far as emotions go, a derivation of love. For love is what you are made of. Love is all that is. Thank you. Hey!
I was wondering if you would like to reflect about the archetypal symbol of the crow.
In this way, as you may already know, it is an expression to some extent for many individuals in different ways, but generally speaking of curiosity, investigation. Also, to some extent, the idea of alarm, the idea of the marking out of territory. To some degree, in some cases, some of the polarities also will be the idea, both in a positive and a negative way, of unseen actions and subconsciously delivered information, like a messenger.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sure.
Bashar,
Yes.
while we're on symbology, would you comment on our mythological cyclops?
Thank you. In this way, to some extent, do recognize that it is partly the idea of what you call the archetypal mythology, and partly a physicalized interpretation out of the archetypal energy substream of consciousness of a manifestation of a portion of your own consciousness that represents itself as what you would call second density civilizations of existence, second density worlds. The idea that for you there is no third dimension of sight, no parallax, no reference point. Everything is flatly perceived with one eye, rather than dimensionally perceived with two. So it is a symbolic interpretation of a manifestation of your subconscious archetypal mass conscious energy of the second density ties that you may still have to that level.
Is there a connection between that idea and what I have heard referred to as the elves or the elders?
To some extent, there is that mixed in with it. Yes. As that will have been a bridge, a link, a tunnel, a doorway from the second to the third density experience. and represent, therefore, an expansion of consciousness that you call the elders.
What geographical area do they exist on here, on this planet?
There were some scatterings in this way, not exactly completely one arrival point, so to speak. But in this way, the old connections of what you would call now, though not then, Asia, as it was also connected to the idea of what came to be called Lemuria in your Pacific, to some extent ranging throughout that area. All right?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Bashar?
Yes.
Surrealistic artists had believed that their art should stem from their dreams, basically because they felt that it was their only pure source of imagination. I was just curious as to how does that coincide with your philosophy?
Well, in a sense, although recognize that your physical reality also stems from your dreams. Simply what they are recognizing is that dream reality, physical reality being one type of dream reality, both are products and extensions of the dimension of imagination, which is what you are, all potential ideas of existence. It is within the idea of existing consciously within your dimension of imagination that you do recognize that all is possible. All is possible. And they are simply recognizing that portion of themselves.
From your physical reality, though, does your imagination become subject to outside influences? Is that...
There is no outside. You may imagine there is, but then you have created that with your imagination, and so physical reality is still subject to your imagination. You follow me?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I do. The only thing that I'm confused about, I guess, is if it's imagination from you or strictly from your dream state, which I understand is part of your physical reality. Are you able to more, in your dream state, more fine-tune to yourself without...
That is as you believe it to be, and so it is so. But your physical reality is also a part of your dream reality. Your dream reality is also a part of your physical reality. So when you understand that they are one reality and not two realities, then the same ideas will be just as possible in both.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sure.
Bashar?
Guys.
I've heard that the Labor Day weekend is going to be a good weekend for viewing UFOs.
Did you know?
I did.
I see.
And I'd like to know...
What you call the idea, September. What you call the idea, October. Highly active.
Okay. Both months in their entirety then?
Generally.
Okay.
There may be what you call peak points, but follow your instinct.
Okay. In terms of where to go, would you suggest that I follow my instinct?
Yes. Well, there are many variables now. Many variables. And you may find that a recommendation now will not be a recommendation then. Thank you. Sure.
Bashar?
Yes.
I have noticed that over the last several years that probably 95-98% of the women I know that have had children have had cesareans.
Oh.
What is this all about instead of natural childbirth? Why are they being cut open?
In this way, in many cases, it is because there is still a belief within your society that natural childbirth is too painful, has to be painful. Thus, in this way, for the child, in a sense, it is not. And it is one way to open up the ideas within yourselves about coming to terms with many of the different projections and different types of ways of giving birth in this sense, to allow you to know there is not just one way, and to allow you to know that these children are very multidimensional and will enter through unexpected doorways.
Hence all the test tube babies and things that are starting to happen?
That too.
I heard someone saying something about that the other day, and that there is some legal thing that the doctors, for some reason, are afraid of getting sued or something like that. I don't remember all the details, but that was part of the reason for all the preparedness.
It does not matter what physiological symbol you attach to give yourself a reason for it. The ideas in this way is simply an exemplification that there are now many doorways to come through. And that many of them are attached to the idea that you have, the belief that you have, that the so-called old ways are still attached to pain.
Isn't it easier for the child to be lifted out of the womb rather than to have to go through birth canal?
That is what you believe, and so it is so, as we are saying.
Oh, okay. So it's just a belief, it's not real.
Hey! Nothing about the idea of childbirth has to be painful. Nothing.
Bashar, what kind of experience would a child have being the process of being born through the integration of using like a water birth with dolphins and stuff? What would their experience be?
What?
What would their experience be?
What you might call less forgetting of who they are.
I was just going to ask that.
So the birthing process, as we know it, is a little bit traumatic, and we forget things. So you're saying that they
would be allowed to transfer from one dimension of experience into another and still take with them a lot of what they are familiar with. They do not have to be purged of their experiences by pain.
And what would the dolphins experience at that time?
Oh, joy.
Lots of communication?
Oh, yes.
And
do not forget that they are assisting you in that way now.
Okay, and well, this is something that I was thinking about doing, and if I want, I do.
Understand, if you simply follow your intuition in this way, that you will create a scenario, you will create an atmosphere, and you will create a condition that will allow the child along with you to co-create and choose whatever methodology is best for both of you, whether it may be the one you think you are going to do or not.
Mm-hmm.
But follow your instincts and you will create an opportunity to create whatever is needed.
Okay.
In other words, there have been individuals who have imagined that they would give birth that way and once again wound up in the idea of what you call cesarean. But simply, they did create an atmosphere that allowed there to be the recognition or the cognition of whatever scenario was of best benefit for all concerned.
Okay, so what you're saying is prior to the birth, the child and the mother both agree.
Oh yes, always.
Well, is there any way I can communicate with my child
Yes.
before to say that
Yes.
this is what I want and let's work it out? This is what we want.
Keep it equal. Now, explore it as one possible method. One possible method. But understand, the child comes from an experience of feeling, not thought. And in this way, what feels correct is what will happen. You follow me?
Mm-hmm.
But you can talk with the child, yes. Do remember that before birth, you are not talking to a child.
Thank you. I needed to be reminded of that.
Thank you.
Bashar?
Yes!
We have agreed upon this physical reality that we all exist on here in these bodies. Do we also have an agreed upon reality where we exist when we leave in between lifetimes, or what?
Yes.
What happens?
There are many different levels you have co-created within that existence as well, and this is shared by the mass consciousness of many different consciousnesses within the universe. There are many different things that can occur according, once again, to the belief system that you have and to what you need to experience. You can experience everything from having a complete overview and understanding of all the ideas you have ever been in physical reality and know that you do not need to incarnate ever again and can go on to other levels. You can go from that level all the way to the experience of not even knowing you have yet died. And become what is called in your vernacular a haunting. A haunting. The idea of what you call spirits or hauntings are simply individuals who have transcended to the non-physical realm but don't know it because of their belief system. It does not allow them to have the recognition that they have in fact died because they did not know what to expect.
Don't they find it frustrating trying to communicate with us?
Sometimes. That sometimes is what can clue them in if they are open enough to listen. But the original idea of what you call your so-called exorcist was for the purpose of functioning as a spirit psychologist. To let them know they had died, they were fine, they could go on. They are not originally for the purpose of banishing evil spirits. Only.
Yes.
Aren't suicides to some degree also in that realm?
Yes. For in this way, what you call conscious suicide is, to a point, the only method open to you to negate the contract you originally made. But in this way, do understand that once you usually arrive back at the point where you originally made the contract, you reestablish that contract once again. And many times experience similar circumstances in the next life, so that you will allow yourself to explore the original idea of knowing you create your own reality and taking responsibility for that in that next life that you perhaps refused to explore in the previous one in which you took your own life. Do recognize, therefore, that there is a difference between the idea of the consciously recognized suicide and what you would term regular death, because every death is in fact suicide, since you do create your own reality. But consciously recognized suicide is usually the lack of willingness to take responsibility for what you have created for yourself to experience. Your lack of willingness to believe that you are in control of it. So, the majority of the idea of what you call conscious suicides usually are reborn almost immediately.
Bashar?
One moment.
I remember a comment Seth made about suicide. He said if that happens, you are required to live out that particular time span that you had originally set for yourself.
Oh, in a sense. But do recognize that what Seth has also referred to is the understanding that time spans differ when you are non-physical and when you are physical. Now, to the physical being still alive, the time span may seem to be long for how long the ghost hangs around. But to the ghost, it doesn't necessarily have to feel like that same amount of time. Thank you. Yes.
On the suicide subject, what about people who don't want to be on life support systems or would rather die, who are critically ill?
In this way, again, that may be different. For it may be an opportunity to be of service to allow individuals to recognize the degree of self-empowerment that individuals have and to explore the idea that there is a point at which you are, in fact, then interfering with someone else's choice of reality. So the idea may be, in your terms, a fine line, but a line there is.
And back to, which also relates, again, back to what you had started with in habits. If somebody has a habit that eventually takes their life, is that okay with the higher self?
It will depend, once again, upon many of the reasons for such an event and the degree of conscious awareness of what is going on. Because there are opportunities for the higher to experience such an idea, what may seem to be a quote-unquote accidental, so to speak, suicide, and not necessarily have the same intonation as a consciously aware suicide. However, do understand that, again, more often than not, those individuals have also almost immediately reincarnated. And also, do understand that an individual in the situation, the so-called life support situation question, have also co-created themselves to linger, to be of service in that way, to allow other individuals to come to terms with their own understandings of life and death. Do understand that if an individual in that situation truly created the timing for their death to be that they would not linger, then they would not linger. So they are being of service in many different ways, whether they may think so or not.
Sure.
Thanks.
Cataracts. What's the cause? And short of an operation, how can they be?
There may be many ways. There are certain ways that are available in your society, and also there can be the recognition of the idea for certain individuals of simply reflecting for themselves or to other individuals a lack of willingness to see what is going on in their lives, to cloud over the issues. Now, full cognizance and alignment with the crystal clarity of existence within the dimension of your imagination can allow any idea that has been created physically to be, quote-unquote, cleared up. But it may take that recognition.
Short of that, is there an additional way? Recognizing that
You understand that no matter what way it is cleared up, it is all a reflection of the taking of that responsibility and the creation of that alignment. No matter what symbol you use or allow someone else to use to clear it up with. If you are not ready to have it cleared up, nothing will clear it up. When you are ready to clear it up, nothing will stop it from clearing. Forward.
Very much so. Thank you.
There may be some other exploration of this idea at a later time.
Bashar?
Fourth density is calling.
My dog has cataracts. Is he reflecting to me?
Animals will usually do that. Now, in this way, again, do understand that we are not saying that in every case it has to be a reflection taken negatively in that sense. It may also be the recognition that you may be shutting down your sensory awareness of one reality so that you can open your eyes and be born into a new world.
Shut down my sensory awareness
of one reality and open your sensory awareness to another. The idea of cataracts can also be what you have referred to in your society as the passing through of a veil. Osmosis through a membrane.
How can I... Interesting, because I had a...
You can, in this way, always send the animals unconditional love and acknowledgement that if they are performing a service for you, that you are willing to take full responsibility for the service they are performing, and know that taking full responsibility means that it does not have to affect you negatively. Then they do not have to continue to take upon themselves the effect in a negative way that you might have created for yourself, because of your belief that the only way it could manifest was negatively. But them taking it for you gives you the opportunity to continue to do what you are doing without being impeded. If you simply know you are willing to take back responsibility for the symbolic creation of that idea and allow it to transform for you in whatever way is necessary to be represented in a positive way, then they will not have to have the cataracts, you will not have to have the cataracts, you will rechannel the energy in a positive way, and both of you will be clear-sighted about that. Become clairvoyant about your own life. That is clear seeing, clairvoyance. Allow your life to become transparent, and there will not be a need for a symbolic darkening or fogging of the senses. You follow me?
Bashar?
Yes!
At different times, it seems like there's a lot of beings that want to communicate with me, a lot of them. And I kind of get confused on well, lots of times I used to get scared, but I don't know which one communicate with first. It seems like a lot of them are around at the same time.
Then what difference does it make?
Because I'd like to explore it, but I...
Go ahead.
Just take one at a time?
Why not?
But it seems like they're all...
None of them are going to be impatient.
Okay.
You do not have to be impatient either.
Okay, good.
Or recognize that you will also simply be blending with many different portions of your own personality as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I'm not aware of any of my dreams.
That is all right. Once again, as we have shared with you, the idea of not remembering your dreams can be a reflection that you are blending the dream and physical reality into one thing.
Right. Okay.
And so not creating the necessary bridge to represent a connection between things that seem to be separate.
Right. Okay. That makes sense to me.
Thank you.
Bashar?
Yes!
Do you have entities from your planet that want to be born in our bodies and come through and live here in human form?
In a sense,
Will that
a few
happen?
have.
That's what I wanted to ask next.
One, if you wish to make a reference in this way in your symbolic terms, one of my past lives is the physiological being sitting before you. Follow me.
I thought ETs didn't have physical life.
Wait a minute.
Why not?
I thought I heard somewhere that
There are many levels of consciousness, and there are many alternate forms of physiological consciousness in the universe. Now, we are fourth density, not third density, but that does not mean we do not have a physiological representation. You will find that one of the myths that your society may have been creating in its metaphysical understanding is that all extraterrestrials have to be spirit.
Yeah, but you're saying that's your past life.
Yes.
What about right now?
I am in my fourth density physical representation.
But people or entities or what is everybody from your planet fourth density?
Yes.
Then would they ever want to be born at this very moment now into a woman carrying a new baby?
Obviously, I did. Again, the understanding that you may be missing is that time, past, present, future, is all one. The idea of being of assistance to you by allowing a portion of my consciousness to be born upon your world happens in whatever timing is appropriate, regardless of where I am in time.
Your confusion is that it's born into Daryl as opposed to a woman, right? Is that what?
No. I'm just saying, for instance, if anybody in this room went home tonight and got pregnant and was going to conceive a baby, is there a possibility that an entity from your planet would walk in and become that spirit of that child and be born in 9 months?
In a sense, yes, but you are making the idea of the misunderstanding by saying it the way you are saying it. Because of the way the time track in your mentality runs, it can be looked upon as if an entity from my world became physical in yours. Also, however, if you wish to fit it into your linear understanding, you would simply say that an entity became physical in your world, lived its life, died, and then became physical in mine. You follow me? In other words, the idea of being born in any particular place and time has not really so much to do with the idea of going back to somewhere or up to somewhere. It is more the idea of going over to somewhere. So that simply, if at any point in my life, in my overall total consciousness awareness, there became a need for such a life, it would occur, regardless of whether it is before I exist as a personality or after I exist as a personality, does not matter. It simply occurs in whatever timing is appropriate. If that fits into what you then call a time frame, then you will tend to see it linearly, before, now, after. But that is not necessarily the way that the life manifests. So it is not necessarily so much that it would be the idea that one of us would decide to be born in your society, but simply that you may look at it for simplicity purposes in your linear time frame that perhaps many of the individuals in my society have already experienced lives in yours and are now in ours. Even if that decision were to be made in our society in what we call our present time, it would still already have happened in your time frame already. Because by definition, you are creating us to be something, so to speak, more accelerated in your future. By definition.
We are creating you to be?
In a sense.
Well, what are you creating yourself to be?
The idea of simply who and what we are. As we relate to different other consciousnesses, we can recognize the reflection that they may have of us and simply relate to them by that perspective, since that is the way it is easiest for them to understand the communication going on. But that is the reason for the so-called confusion now, because you are beginning to equalize yourselves with our vibratory level, and in this way, there is not so much of a differentiation in the idea of our relative time flows. I'll put it simply. Yes. But it is not always exactly as it seems in terms of when the decision was made and when the decision is activated.
Well, no, but you say now is the only thing we have. I'm asking you now.
Yes.
Not past or my future. I mean...
Then as of now, there are individuals that have attachments and representational consciousness in my society that are now being born into yours.
And that to help us as you're channeling through Daryl?
Yes, of course.
That's what I needed to know.
Thank you.
Bashar.
Simply, in this way, thought it would be interesting to explain some of the idea of the temporal physics.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bashar,
Yes.
There's a situation that somebody told me about, and I trust them as being
You
truthful.
trust you.
Okay.
In terms of the idea that everything you attract will have validity for what you need to hear, regardless of what you choose to prefer to create from it.
Okay. Now, this situation of these women that are being impregnated in their sleep and carrying the entity, the child, for a couple of months or a couple of weeks and then take it from their etheric body during their sleep. What's going on there?
There are many types of, as I said, doorways that a birth can occur in. One of them, many of them, they do not have to open into your dimension.
You mean the pit stop?
All right. We understand the terminology to some extent, yes.
Does that mean it's the pits?
In this way, recognize that there are many different types of connections now being formed, many different associations of consciousness, and in this way, some degree of association to your physiological reality may be appropriate for those consciousnesses to experience temporarily.
So that's the purpose of that.
One of them.
Okay, what's another?
It has to do with the choices that are being made by the physiological entities in your civilization to recognize certain portions of themselves that they then come to terms with after having experienced such an interchange.
Is it also a situation of cooperating with another civilization? Where are these entities going?
Yes, in a sense, yes. Again, many different levels. All for the purpose of allowing there to be a blending on a different level that will allow the changes that you wish to occur in your civilization to be able to occur.
Does that mean they're immaculately conceived? I mean, just kind of stepping in without any... baby? Yeah.
Well, in a sense, but not really. What you are calling the idea immaculate conception still involves an interchange. Perhaps not as you are understanding it.
One that we're talking about.
Correct. Although there is a physiological activation of the cellular structure to allow the cells to multiply into a certain type of physiological being.
It's just not the way we know it.
What's
Correct.
the process they use?
More rather than, let us say, immaculate conception, spontaneous activation of an idea. It is giving energy to an idea that then can transmute that energy into a material expression. Because the raw material is there.
That's how you have birth on your planet, right?
More the idea.
It's more...
Although, again, we have been sharing the understanding that it is of a sexual nature so that you will have something to relate to. Because there is an interchange of physiological beings in that way, but again, there are many differences. And in a sense, our differences are more akin to that idea than to what you are used to.
Different, along the idea of thought, creating some idea.
Energy.
Energy.
Emotion. Energy, emotion.
Are the physicalities different between you and the females on your planet?
Do you mean, would you recognize a female to be a female and a male to be a male?
Yeah.
Yes. For again, we are simply reflecting ourselves as those polar expressions in order for the interchange to take place in some physiological level.
Bashar, what are the polar expressions of male and female? I mean, I know active, passive, but is there more to that than I mean...
Not so much. Not really.
Obvious.
It is simply the idea that both together exemplify generally all the different viewpoints that you can be within all that is in this particular universe.
All that is in this particular universe.
Yes, for there are other universes where there is
female.
something other than the idea you call male-female.
Really? What other?
Oh, there are trinary arrangements. And again, you cannot refer to them as, well, what are they, male or female? It does not express itself that way.
Well, we have male, female, and
hermaphrodite.
Right.
In that way, that is still an exemplification for you of an idea expressing a blending of maleness and femaleness. A so-called hermaphrodite in a triad expressive universe would still be a hermaphrodite, but not exemplifying maleness or femaleness, but the personification of the triad. So there are also different types of hermaphrodite.
Sure seems like it would make cruising difficult.
Personification. Okay. All right. I don't really
That
follow
is
that.
all right. That is all right.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can we take this a hypothetical idea?
You can take it anywhere you wish.
That a doctor, okay, his wife had 5 of these so-called other dimensional children.
Okay.
In the last about 8 years, okay. Where have these children, are these children being brought up somewhere else?
In a sense. And some of them may return.
That's what I think I'm asking you. You just said there are many connections being made right now to help us with our transformation. This is one of the ways, one of the connections that are being made. These children are being schooled in some way.
So to speak.
On Arcturus.
That is one place.
On our what?
Will they ever...
Arcturus.
Will these children ever be able... Will this woman, for example, ever know her children?
Yes.
She will?
Yes. Perhaps not as you think, but yes.
But there will be a connection.
Yes.
Connection, because
yes.
she did allow herself to be...
Yes.
Are you talking about also babies that they're aborted? What about babies that have been aborted?
Some. Yes. Some.
Oh, I wasn't talking about...
But aren't babies that have been aborted in a sense the same thing as...
to some degree. Not always is that the case, but to some degree.
What? What's the question?
The idea that there are simply recognitions that certain consciousnesses only need to experience a very short extension of their consciousness into physical materiality, so they will make an agreement with one of your physiological beings that does not desire a full-term birth.
I was wondering
about arms, the back of arms is very symbolic.
Back of arms.
Yeah.
Back of arms.
Well, there's the front and there's the back and then the side. Well, maybe you could just tell me generally arms.
Arms! How do they serve you? Do they allow you to reach out and hold things? Well, do they allow you a sense of extension? A sense of remote manipulation, remote control, dexterity, creativity? Do they not extend your reach? Do they not form a type of communication with what they touch? Do they not also define, quote unquote, your space?
Yeah, my question came from a friend of mine. Told me she has like some spots, not bumps, but spots that disappear in her arm, and she said they don't bug her. Her husband bugs her to go to the doctor. I said, well, maybe she should go to the doctor. But then today, my arms are like, I feel them buzzing or some little things in the back of my arms, and I'm just like, that's, you know.
The connection as we...
He has no perception of the body, or he has the same perception of the body that one has in sleep. The next rundown, that takes about 2 hours. The next rundown.
The connection as we can perceive it at this time seems to have something to do with the idea of exploring a belief that says you can have gaps in your electromagnetic field, which is the same thing in a way as saying that you may feel or believe that there are missing components within your ability to communicate, to reach out.
Me, her, or both of us?
You may be empathizing.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Bashar?
Yes.
Would you tell me why, would you explain to me, when I asked you about communicating with these beings, why they'd be reflecting, or why my doing that would reflect a lot of my personality?
Because you are your own universe, and when you communicate with anything else, you have to create your own version out of what you are in order to experience that interchange. So, many spirit guides and other levels of consciousness are constantly doing their job by luring you to more of yourself. Because to interact with anything else means you have to interact with your self-created version of that something else. And that brings up more and more of yourself to discover.
And they're trying to help me discover more of myself?
They are not trying.
Or
they are doing it.
Oh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bashar, along that same line.
This one?
Yeah.
This is a nice one.
Spirit guides, are they not simply an extension of ourselves?
Yes and no.
I think there is more.
They, again, do their job unobtrusively. They can be represented as other consciousness, as other beings, but the idea more often than not that it cannot happen in more direct, aware, communicative ways or methodologies, the idea more often than not will simply be that they lead you to more of your own recognition of yourself rather than direct experience of them.
Okay, I was just considering the possibility that all our own selves...
Well, everything is. All of these other individuals sitting with you in this room are you. But you also recognize that they are other consciousness as well. Spirit guides have the same degree of reality. They are their own beings, and at the same time, they are all you, and you are them.
Do they appear in the form that we need to see them?
Yes, more often than not.
Sure.
Yes.
I think I used the term, unless I'm mistaken, unfoldment. We are unfolding.
In a sense.
Is that the same as evolving?
Yes, can be. Also the same as remembering more of who and what you are.
Remembering more, okay. All right.
peeling back the layers you have built, the limitations, the levels, unfolding in vulnerability to all that is.
Invulnerability. Okay, beautiful. And so you, a being essentially then just keeps unfolding and unfolding and
Yes.
unfolding.
Creation is active, never ends.
Well, it's difficult for me to get away from the idea of they learn more than in a sense, right?
If you say so.
Well, isn't that there's something kind of linear about that, or as like?
Well, that is simply because you are doing it in a linear universe. Learning more is simply remembering more of all the different levels upon which you already exist.
So you essentially become more expansive. You take in more of.
You
the
become
universe.
more consciously.
You become more consciously.
Yes. Since you have decided to explore the idea of limitation, then you had to create the ability to forget that you chose to limit yourself. Otherwise, how could you experience limitation?
Right.
So the idea of now integration rather than limitation is to stop forgetting.
I see. So in a sense, you're a part of all that is, but in the unfoldment process, you become more a part of all that is.
In a sense, more aware of yourself as all that is. Same thing, yes.
In a sense, larger too. Well,
Oh, in a sense, yes.
I mean,
Yes.
Okay.
All of these symbols are valid.
Okay.
Act upon them. If they inspire you, act upon them.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much! Yes.
Did you talk to us about multiple births, in particular, identical twins?
Many of them have had many lives together. Many of them may be counterparts of the same soul. There are many different ideas that can be exemplified by that idea. Can be one soul splitting itself, in a sense, into counterpart selves for the experience of having a direct and immediate reflection.
Could I have twin boys?
Do you feel so inclined?
Do I feel so inclined?
He said he has.
If I do.
He said, could I?
No, I do.
All right.
And there seems to be a very close connection I have between myself and one of these boys.
Are you asking if you have been twins before? Yourself?
I don't even know what the question is I'm going to ask.
Well, that was one. The answer is yes.
Okay.
You have taken turns being each other's twins many times. Triplets too.
Can you tell me why I seem to have this psychic connection, this ability to be able to communicate with one child of mine? I mean, it's not verbal, it's not over the telephone or letters or anything, it just happens.
It is because you are in love. Understand that the idea of telepathy is to love. Telepathy is emotionally activated. To love them is to know them. Now, it also simply represents a specific connection that is being played out from a last life with that particular consciousness. It will equalize with the other child as well when the timing comes. When you will all be equalized. When the idea is played out.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Bashar, you said that telepathy is. Can you say that again?
Telepathy is, while, in a sense, mentally, let us say, realized, it is emotionally activated. Many of you think, oh, telepathy, oh, cool, intellectual consciousness. No emotion. But telepathy is actually empathy, in a sense.
So the more we allow ourselves to be open to feeling, the more likely we are to be.
Yes, to love them is to know them. That is why you know that people in love often share each other's thoughts. Because they vibrate with integration, congruency, on the same wavelength, so to speak. And that comes from unconditional love. That is why our society, for itself, is telepathic. Because we love each other equally and unconditionally. Not because we are mental giants.
Bashar, why do people fall out of love then? When they're...
They do not have to. All they are doing is not allowing themselves to recognize that perhaps to begin with, they simply did not allow themselves to know what the relationship was for rather than what they expected it to be. Any relationship that changes for the same reasons it was created, to allow you to experience what you have chosen to experience in this life. Therefore, when the relationship changes, that does not mean you have to fall out of love. You can recognize that the relationship changes because of love as well. You follow me?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. It simply may be that since your society has, quote unquote, in the past, usually made a, quote unquote, habit of putting expectations upon relationships for what they think they should be rather than allowing them to be what they are, then perhaps when the relationship changes as it was going to do according to the path you chose to be, then you simply in this way think you have lost something. So you imagine you have fallen out of love. It is all created from love. When you allow yourself to know that, then the changes that go on in relationships will all be reflective of that love and not a loss of it.
I see.
That is simply the idea of allowing everyone to be who and what they are, not what you want them to be. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bashar?
Yes.
I remember you speaking once about appetite and making a distinction between what the mind wanted to eat and what the body wanted to eat. Could you clarify how to personally recognize the difference?
It does not have to be so very complex in that way, and you can also recognize that if you are listening to your so-called body consciousness section of you, the idea will simply be a recognition, a cognition, that the vibrational food that represents the vibration you are on will be what you have the urge for. And the things that do not represent your vibration, you will not have an urge for in that sense. A natural urge, so to speak. If you find yourself with the idea of going through the expression of your negative ego, well, I want this, I want that, regardless of how I know my body feels about that idea, then you are not listening to your body consciousness. You will recognize once again, as we have said before, that if you simply pay attention to yourself and listen to yourself, treat yourself with respect and unconditional love, you'll know the difference automatically.
Are you better off to listen to your body consciousness rather than...
Again, it is not being better off. If you find that what you want to explore is the idea of struggling, then in your terms you are better off listening to your negative ego. However, if that is not what you prefer, then listen to your body. Remember that there is no need to force yourselves to be spiritual. You are spirit. You are spirit. If you find that your body consciousness says that your body does in fact need something to support the belief system that you are, eat it. Do not say, oh no, I cannot eat that meat, I will not be spiritual. If you truly are simply of a vibration wherein you do not need the meat, you will not have the urge for it. It is as simple as that. It will not be a matter of having to make a tough decision. Relax into yourselves. Love yourselves as unconditionally as all that is does. Why should you treat yourselves any less than all that is treats you? You exist. You always will. You are eternal.
relax. You have all the time in creation. You create all the time in creation that you need to be any idea you want to be within a time frame. At this timing, we will extend to you our unconditional love and energy. We thank you for your sharing of the gift of your particular point of view of all that is, so that we may see that many more ways that all that it has of expressing itself within creation. We thank you for teaching us. And we thank you for allowing us to reflect to you that which you are. In our eyes you are beautiful, and we love you. We are the sharing together that continues forever. We bid you exciting dream lives and light dreams. We bid you a fond and loving good evening.
Good night.